Some massive talks regarding a WWE TNA partnership. Plus, we're going to talk about some massive signings for AEW, which now seem to be relatively confirmed. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Ango Show. Yes. Welcome back to TAS. It's your boy Ango. Don't forget, we got a giveaway at 100,000 subscribers. So if you're interested for a chance to win, you should probably click subscribe today. Want to kick things off talking about the Royal Rumble and some massive success. Fightful Select has learned that last night's Royal Rumble saw their largest viewership in the history of the event. It's also the largest audience of any PLE in WWE history outside of WrestleMania, per internal memos. You know, obviously, WWE Royal Rumble this year filled with tons of hype and excitement. I did a whole live review on this, and I thought I was very, very fair and very, straight to the point with my live review show. So if you guys missed that, you should definitely check it out. The reason why I want to talk about the success with the Royal Rumble, though, is because it does go to show you how hot the product actually is. And I feel like the Royal Rumble got all of the winners right? The Women's Rumble, Bayley, the stories that have been conveyed on television, it's making for some great content. And one of the things that I praised on the live review show is that it seems to me that WWE is very laser focused long term. You see reports of The Rock coming back and WrestleMania plans being changed or whatever it may be. And I don't necessarily think that's the case, right? What I think is the case is that Triple H and the WWE, I don't know if they're personally feeding people wrong information or who's doing it, but I think there's a lot of rumors about potential things that can happen, and WWE is really not paying attention to any of that. And obviously that was evident by Bayley winning the Rumble, Cody winning the Rumble. Therefore, Roman had to win the Fatal 4-Way. And then, of course, LA Knight not getting pinned and protected. I think that right there, just being protected in the finish itself is a great way to keep the momentum hot for LA Knight. Seems like WWE has a long-term plan. Wrestling fans are watching. I think if you go outside of the IWC bubble, I think most people were really happy with the Royal Rumble pay-per-view. There was things I liked, there was things I disliked, but that's pretty much like any other wrestling show that I watch. One thing that really has to be said here, and I did want to touch on this for a quick second because I do find it to be relatively important, but with the whole situation regarding the allegations in the WWE, I feel like even Triple H was talking about the success of WWE Royal Rumble, and it's fantastic that WWE's product is doing this well, but you cannot ignore some of the stuff that is also being said about the company and being said about Vince McMahon. And because of those allegations, I personally thought that Triple H did not handle that aspect of the press conference properly, right? I feel like when the tough questions get asked, I don't have expectations because I know for legal reasons they have a hard time answering these types of questions. But I felt like Triple H kind of dismissed that in a way to just keep talking about the positives of the Royal Rumble and the records that they're setting and stuff like that. And while those things are fantastic, that does not change the fact that something else that is much more bigger is the dark cloud that is following the company. So I just wasn't a big fan of that personally. While I am excited to see that wrestling is very hot these days, I'm not excited to see what is being said with these allegations. And obviously that is not a good thing for pro wrestling. It's not a good thing for WWE, but also, if these allegations are true, it's obviously not a good thing for the victims and people who have to experience this type of stuff. So for me personally, I think, it's one thing to celebrate it, but to also dismiss it at the same time, that is very just not good at all. So want to keep it moving. A lot of people were wondering what was going to happen with Mercedes and Okada, and I was talking about this on the live stream a little bit, and I want to talk about it here. Tony Khan recently posted a tweet basically confirming that Mercedes and Okada is coming to the company, and he didn't even have to say it, right? I think anybody who actually watches the wrestling show every single week kind of knows what Tony Khan was referring to here. I knew what he was referring to because, when there was a report that went out that WWE was not in the business of contract tampering for Mercedes Moné, Tony Khan posted a tweet saying 2024 AEW is starting to look a lot like 2021. Now, the most memorable moment for AEW in 2021 was the debut of Adam Cole and Bryan Danielson. I know this because I was there. and it was electrifying. It was one of the best moments in AEW history. And that's exactly what AEW's Tony Khan is referring to. I found the tweet to be really weird, to be honest, because it's like you're dismissing the last 2 years of your product, you know, but at the same time too, I get exactly what he was trying to achieve. And for me, I think Mercedes and Okada, like I've said several times, I feel like it makes sense for them to go to AEW. You know, and I've said this before, I don't think they go in and change the business for WWE or AEW. I think they help the product. I don't think they help the business aspect for any of the companies, but I think it's a good thing, right? I think it makes a lot of sense. They are two key massive signings. You know, I've been pretty on board with just saying I want them on weekly television, and that's all I could really hope for in this situation, right? With Mercedes and Okada, I just hope they're on weekly television. But I think Tony Khan essentially confirmed that these are the two signings. We obviously didn't get them at the Royal Rumble. And one thing I'll point out here, and I'm going to keep reiterating this a lot throughout my tenure on this platform, because I've been saying it for a lot. You know, if you're one of those people who are upset at the Royal Rumble or at the WWE because you didn't get Mercedes at number 30 or you didn't get Okada at number 30, stop buying into fantasy booking, right? I fantasy book all the time. And I've had people tell me, they're like, bro, this sounds so realistic. And like, that's cool that it sounds realistic. But at the end of the day, I'm not reporting anything. I'm fantasy booking. You know, and I think sometimes with a lot of things being said on Twitter and rumors and people fantasy booking and throwing out their theories, I think a lot of them are realistic to the point where you could see it happening, then you believe it's happening, and then you get upset when it doesn't happen. And at the end of the day, I think fantasy booking is fun. I love when we fantasy book in our Discord. So if you're not in Discord, you should probably join. But I think that's a big thing that needs to be discussed here, because you can't be mad at WWE for not bringing them in, and you can't be mad at AEW for bringing them in. But what you could be mad at is whoever goes wherever they go, you could be mad at how they're presented or how they're booked, and that's a whole different thing. But with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, do not get yourself excited based on theories and internet rumors. Get excited about the product you are watching on TV, because if you're watching TV across the board, you could pretty much figure out the roadmap for anything that's happening on television. Which leads us to the TNA WWE Partnership. WWE obviously had Jordynne Grace at the Women's Royal Rumble. She came out to number 5, and she came out with the TNA Championship. Completely different from the Mickie James Forbidden Door type of thing that people often talk about. Jordynne Grace was in there. She lasted about 25 minutes in the Women's Royal Rumble. And at the same time, too, she had her moments. She had her spots. She had a face-off with Ivy Nile, which was really dope because they were doing standing suplexes, commentary hyping it up. The crowd was going crazy. Over 48,000 people chanting TNA. And I want to talk about this, for example, because a lot of people say, well, nobody watches TNA. Well, that's obviously cap, right? We know that's cap. We know that's bullshit because people were obviously excited about this. But what was really interesting to me was the fact that WWE actually played into the Naomi and Trinity storyline from TNA as well, openly acknowledging that Trinity dropped the TNA Knockouts Championship to Jordynne Grace. They propped up TNA. They propped up Jordynne Grace's skills. And then Triple H went on to also praise her in the press conference. You know, when it comes to this relationship, there's a lot of interesting talk about this because Fightful had said last week that WWE had reached out to TNA. They started talking. They had her come in for some blood work and like a physical, and that was based on like last Monday. She was there for the rehearsals for the Royal Rumble, and then basically she's still signed to the company, but WWE and TNA worked this out, and you know, this was one of the things that came to fruition. Triple H will not use the term Forbidden Door, but he's open to doing stuff like this. What I found interesting was Jordynne Grace was on Twitter, and with her Twitter, she basically said there is still more to come. I do believe there is more to come. I've been speculating this for a very long time, and based on things I've heard, based on things that you know, that are being done in wrestling, I could very much see a partnership. I'm not talking main roster stuff. It's always a possibility. You never know. But I think we will see more of this. I think Jordynne Grace and you know, what she did there was fantastic. But the cool thing about this is, like, TNA might do a World X Cup. It'd be really insane if they announced the WWE talent for that. So, like, there's just a lot of good that could come from this. Obviously, very fun to see that happen. But shout out to Jordynne Grace absolutely killed it. Looked like she belonged in a WWE ring. But I knew she was killing it because she's been killing it on TNA for years. So very cool stuff here. Love the fact that WWE acknowledged how Naomi dropped the belt. Love the fact that they acknowledged their feud. And I love the fact that people reacted to that stare off, because that right there was like a really big moment. There is more to expect from this partnership. Now, how big does it get? What do they do? Is it on the level of AEW and New Japan? No, I don't think so, but you never know. And that's what makes it really fun to be a wrestling fan, because sometimes the unexpected just happens.